Alright, this is the Black Diamond and Double Black Diamond from 6-0. 6-0 is a small company from Australia, and these two models are part of the new wave of thermoform paddles with foam injected into the edges. Think VATIC Pro, Legacy Pro, Carbon X series, more to come for sure. The Black Diamond is the more power-orientated paddle in the lineup versus the Double Black Diamond, which is more control-orientated. Now, although one is more power and one is more control, I would say that they're both pretty powerful, at least compared to the raw carbon fiber paddles of yesteryear. 6-0 actually did a really good job at making these two paddles feel very distinct from each other. What they didn't do a great job of was making them look distinctly different from each other when aesthetics are concerned. They're very difficult to tell apart. Like 6-0, please fix this. They should have just called one of them like the White Diamond or some other gemstone just to stick with the theme. The Black Diamond has its logo and branding grayed out in the grip tape and on the edge guard. With the Double Black Diamond, it's white and they have the extra geometric shape etched into the face. So don't buy the wrong one because they are very, very different. Before we get into the rest of the review, here's some specs of the paddle. Both these paddles retail for about $180 US, and they both pretty much have identical specs aside from the face material. They have a length of 16.3 inches, a width of 7.5 inches to 7.7 inches at its widest, a core thickness of 16 millimeters, grip length of 5.3 inches, grip circumference of 4.25 inches, and the average weight of 8.3 ounces, give or take 0.2 ounces. The Black Diamond uses some proprietary raw composite material, primarily made of fiberglass, whereas the Double Black Diamond uses the T700 raw carbon fiber. Let's talk about build. I do think that the 6-0 paddles are all built pretty well, and they have foam injected into the edge, and it goes all the way down to the handle. And this should make the handle less prone to snapping. Speaking of handle, this is actually a really good handle, just long enough for a two-handed backhand, but honestly, I would prefer a little bit of a longer handle. The shape of the paddle, while not truly elongated, is fairly close to my preferred paddle length of 16.5 inches, and that extra length probably doesn't make that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things, but merely just my preference. I do think that the actual elongated paddles helps me with power because I feel like I can get more leverage on the ball in my shots, but speaking of power, this is probably one of the easiest traits to help distinguish between the two paddles. The Black Diamond uses a composite mostly of fiberglass versus the raw carbon fiber face used in the Double Black Diamond. And fiberglass typically provides more power versus raw carbon fiber, so no surprises there. I'd put the Black Diamond, at least in terms of power, right below the Legacy Pro and probably above every other thermoform paddle out there. It has a very unique feel. This is kind of how I would describe and compare the paddles. So the Legacy Pro has this more trampoline effect. It gets its power from that trampoline feeling. The VATIC and the Carbon X series has the most traditional feel and feels most similar to regular polypropylene cores that you're used to, but just a little bit stiffer. The Black Diamond feels like it hits like a truck. Like I would say it is a ProKenix Black Ace that is 16 millimeter. It explodes off the paddle face, but just feels a little bit more dampened and softer. It's honestly kind of addicting just smacking drives and serves with the Black Diamond. The Double Black Diamond is pretty much on par with the Carbon 1X 16 millimeters in terms of power for me. There when you need it, but most of the times you don't. Drives, serves, and returns are definitely where these paddles excel at. Now, what's the use of all this power if you can't control it, right? Luckily for you, the 6-0 paddles definitely have a lot of control, and they get it with the amount of crazy spin that they get, which I will touch on later in this video. I would definitely say that the Black Diamond has a little bit of a higher skill ceiling when compared to its brother. Dinking, drops, and resets definitely feel firm to the touch, and you will have to play around with how strongly you grip your handle if you want to play with the Black Diamond at a very high level. If you want to play aggressively with the Black Diamond, I almost always recommend hitting all your shots at the no volley zone with a decent amount of spin or cut, as you will need it to control the power this thing has. Aim with margin from the lines and play high percentage shots by going cross court, and you will find success. The Double Black Diamond, on the other hand, has far more utility and far more forgiving. I think the Double Black Diamond plays the softest out of all the thermoform paddles out there right now, and probably tied for best all-court paddle out there, along with the Carbon 1X 16mm in my opinion. The firmness of your grip and your technique doesn't change all that much when you're moving from the baseline to the no volley zone, or if you're transitioning to and from offense to defense with the Double Black Diamond. Those hybrid drive drops that you're used to seeing right now are much easier to perform with the Double Black Diamond. Dinks, resets, and roll volleys are also much more easier to perform, especially when compared to the Black Diamond. It just feels like it dwells on the paddle a little bit longer than the Black Diamond and is just that much more forgiving and gives you that much more time to execute your shot. I will say that these paddles have a more traditional shape and they feel very fast in the hand, at least when compared to some of the more elongated paddles out there like the Legacy Pro or the VATIC or even the Carbon 1 series. Now that speed definitely lends itself to spin, and the surface of these paddles are very fine and smooth to the touch when compared to other raw carbon fiber paddles out there, minus the Legacy Pro, which share a very similar surface in my opinion. I would say both these paddles get phenomenal spin and both of them are in the top tier of paddles with high spin right now. I've talked to Chris Olsen from the Pickleball Studio and also John Q about their spin results and their numbers for these paddles, and they always score and rank very high, if not the highest in the top of their list. I mean, just look at the residue left behind on the face of these paddles. Now, I kind of already went over the touch and feel of these paddles, but to reiterate, the Black Diamond feels like really stiff, like almost like a wooden board. A 16mm Black Ace. The double Black Diamond, on the other hand, is that same wooden board, but with a very good and soft pillow topper on top of it. Maybe not as good as the Legacy Pro, but definitely better than the Carbon 1X series and maybe on par with the Carbon 2X series. I think that's partly due to the more flared out shape of the face. This theoretically widens the sweet spot of the paddle as it gives more distance from the center of the paddle to the edges. I did find that I liked the double Black Diamond much more after applying a bit of weight to the 9 o'clock and the 3 o'clock positions. It just made the paddle a bit more stable for me and increased the overall weight as well as the swing weight a bit closer to what I prefer from a fully elongated paddle. So is it dope or no? I think they're dope, specifically the Black Diamond. I think the Black Diamond is dope because it's using fiberglass to get a very similar feel and performance to the raw carbon fiber paddles that we're seeing today. The double Black Diamond, on the other hand, is more of their safe bet, and if you're having trouble deciding between the two, I would definitely go for the double Black Diamond. Now, where do these paddles stack compared to the other thermoform paddles out there, such as Legacy, VATIC, and Carbon? Well, in terms of power, the Black Diamond definitely comes in at a clear second place right after the Legacy Pro, and it barely ekes ahead of the Carbon 1X14. Right after that comes the double Black Diamond, which is tied for third place with the Carbon 1X16 and the VATIC Pro. Now, while the Black Diamond comes in second for power, I will say that I think it's a bit easier to control than the Legacy. The feedback from the Black Diamond is just a bit more crisp when you strike the ball, so it feels easier to make adjustments on the fly. Now, when it comes to control and touch, I think that the double Black Diamond and the Carbon 1X16mm are the clear winners here. I think that these two are the best all-court paddles out right now, followed very closely by the VATIC Pro 16mm. Now, if you prefer longer handles, you could go with the Carbon 1X series line, although they are a little bit more expensive at $230. If you still want something elongated and a bit on a budget, then you could go with the VATIC Pro. However, I find the feel and the touch of the double Black Diamond much better than the VATIC and closer to the Carbon X16. They just feel a little bit more solid and substantial when striking the ball. Overall, I think 6-0 did a really good job with their Black Diamond and double Black Diamond paddles. They're at a very interesting intersection between price, performance, value, control, touch, feel, and just about everything. Anyways, if you're interested in ordering or pre-ordering any of these paddles, please consider using my links or codes down below. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you have this paddle and if you played with it and if you love it or hate it or if they could do things to improve upon it. Till next time, play better. I'm out.